Lovely to be here and to host a session on the topic of mental resilience, and great to see so many of you logging in. So yes, this session will be about practical tools and how you can cultivate a growth mindset. And I would like to start with this powerful sentence. Whether you think you can or can't, you're always right. And I'll read that again. Whether you think you can or can't, you are always right. So think about it. If you think you can do something, you will probably get into action, you become motivated, and hence you will have a result, and it shows that you can do it. But if you think that you can't do something, you will stay where you are, you're not even going to try, and again, it's proven that you can't do something. So you basically shape your own reality by your thoughts. And it's important to realize a little bit more about what type of mindset do you have. Do you have the mindset, I have to get everything right, or otherwise I will fail? Or do you have more of a mindset which is more of mistakes help me to learn and to improve? You can already understand or maybe feel that with the first mindset, it might actually result in a little bit more stress. If you have to do everything right or otherwise you will fail, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. Versus the second one, mistakes help me to learn to improve. You might be a little bit more friendly and softer for yourself, and maybe not so hard and less stress. So this first example is more of the fixed mindset. That's what it says. And the second example is more of the growth mindset. So with a fixed mindset, it's something, I can't do this, I've never learned how to do this, it's impossible for me to attain, it keeps you stuck. And it keeps you where you are. Whereas with the growth mindset, you are looking more for opportunities, possibilities, and you see that you can maybe make mistakes, but it's helping you to learn and to grow, hence the growth mindset. So why is it important to understand these two mindsets? So basically, the growth mindset helps you also to train more of your mental resilience. And it's about mastering your thoughts, because I will show you in a little bit that we have many thoughts on a daily basis. And what we in the end would like is that we can handle setbacks, whether they're personal or at work. We want to be able to handle stress better, workplace challenges. And for that, we need to increase our mental resilience. So we already saw with that sentence, whether you think you can or you can't, that your thoughts shape your reality. So there's a lot of research done on how our brains function and about our thoughts, and you will find different kind of numbers and different kind of research. But some of the research that I've looked into and used for this webinar is a recent research shows that we have more than 6,000 thoughts on a daily basis. And yes, there is also research that says that we even have more, up to 60,000 thoughts a day. And that, of course, depends a little bit on the definition of thoughts. 60,000 is a lot, but even 6,000 thoughts on a daily basis is already really, really a lot. In a way, luckily, that we don't know all these 6,000 thoughts, because we probably would go crazy. But on the other way, it's also a little bit unfortunate that 95% of what we think we're not even aware of. So their thoughts are unconscious. So to me, if I read that number and I think about it, it feels a little bit like zombie, what is actually going on in my mind, and I don't even know it. Another important aspect of our thoughts and the way that our brain functions is that we tend to focus more on the negative aspects. And think about it from an evolutionary perspective. Our brain is here to keep us safe. So we focus more on where could be danger and where can I feel safe. You can also maybe think of it as an example. If your manager tells you that you did a great job, you probably will acknowledge it. But the moment a colleague will say that you could have done something better or you made a mistake, probably that thought will resonate more with you, and you might take that thought home with you, and the compliment is already forgotten. So that's what already shows that we focus more on the negative aspect. So again, research, they don't know exactly how many negative thoughts, but if we tend to have more negative than positive thoughts, you could easily end up with more than 3,000 to up to 3,500 negative thoughts on a daily basis, and we're not even aware of them. So can you think about what that will do to our reality? Because we know our thoughts shape our reality. On top of all of that, our brain runs on habits. We live mostly on autopilot. And you may think, no, that's not for me. But again, 90 to 95% is unconscious, what we are thinking. And most thoughts repeat themselves daily. So what you were thinking yesterday is probably also what you're thinking today, what you will be thinking tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and on. Talking about Groundhog Day, right? And why is that? Because your brain takes the easiest path to preserve energy. Your brain is not really happy to have every day 6,000 new thoughts. It costs way too much energy. So let's keep it as it is. I'm happy, I'm safe here, I'm in my comfort zone, no need to move anywhere. That's what your brain wants for you. But we want something else. And we know that negative thoughts are automatically prioritized. And these repeated thoughts shape your reality. If you think about it every day, they will become patterns. They will influence your behavior and the way that you feel. So this is a little bit what the picture will look like. We have mostly unconscious thoughts. They tend to be more negative than positive. And a lot of them are basically repetition. Repetitive from the day yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So what do we do with that? Like, okay, we don't have control over our thoughts, they're all negative. Now what can I do? There is good news because you can break the cycle of thoughts. And why do we want to do that? Because thoughts create feelings, right? If you have a thought, a negative or a sad thought, like nobody's listening to me or I can't do this, you will instantly get a feeling of maybe feeling hopeless, lost or sad. So you will get a negative feeling. And if you have that negative feeling that you're experiencing, you will also have a different behavior. If you're feeling sad or angry or maybe like hopeless, you will probably have a different behavior. You will not be very motivated to get into action. Hence, when you have a different behavior, the behavior that you don't want to have, it reinforces your thoughts again and it continues. And again, it's becoming your reality. So we want to break this cycle of thoughts and we can do so by 3 ways, and I will show you how. But before the how, we have to understand that we have to become aware, right? Because without awareness, if you don't know what you're thinking, or if you're not aware of how you're feeling, or if you're not aware of your behavior, it's also not possible to change it. So how can you become more aware of these thoughts, feelings, and actions? And a word that I imagine many of you already know, mindfulness. And some of you may think, yes, mindfulness, I love it, and I'm already practicing it on a daily basis or maybe weekly basis. And there might also be people in the audience that think, mindfulness is really not for me. I can't sit cross-legged, I don't like it, I need to move, I can't sit still. Well, mindfulness is more than just meditation. To me, mindfulness is something that you do throughout the day. And not something like maybe half an hour in the morning and then the rest of the day you'll be running around again like crazy. Ideally, mindfulness is something that you do throughout the day because the more aware you become throughout the day, the more you can actually influence thoughts, feelings, and behavior. So it is about being present and becoming aware before taking action. That is what mindfulness is about. And of course, it's great that if you are one of these persons that can sit maybe for 10, 20 or 30 minutes, meditation, mindfulness, or breathing exercises, it's beautiful because it does have some positive effects. But if you're not that person, don't worry. You can be mindful without having to sit still for 30 minutes. It's about becoming aware also at work. So yes, you can be in control if you are becoming aware of what it is that you're thinking. So let's have a look at the thoughts. Once you become aware of a certain thought that you really is not helping you, for instance, I can't versus I can you reframe your inner dialogue? If you're thinking, I can't do this, maybe you can reframe it as in, I can't do it yet. Or I can't do it, however, I can learn how to do it. The moment that you're reframing your inner dialogue, that's where some space is emerging. It's challenging your thoughts, shifts your perspective, and reduces stress. I can't do it yet. You can already feel it. Maybe feel a little bit less angry or paralyzed about it. Feelings. How can you control the feelings? If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling frustrated, insecure, whatever kind of feelings that you may have, either at the workplace or at home, you can regulate with breath. And it seems like a very simple trick. And yes, it is a very simple trick. We all know that sentence, take a deep breath, calm down. And actually it does work because it really reduces your nervous system. Yeah, it prevents emotions from taking over. But again, you need to be aware of it. Otherwise, you're not even taking that deep breath. And if the deep breath for you is not really working, or maybe it's not enough, then you can also think about making some small movements. You move with attention, maybe stretching, maybe going for a small walk could help, maybe shaking a little bit. Some people I also know, they like to dance a little bit to some music, for instance. So the moment that you start moving your body, even for a small minute, and again, it's that mindfulness moment, it tells your brain that you are in control. You're not letting your instinct taking over. So you can be in control. So it's thoughts, reframing the inner dialogue. It's feelings, for instance, with regulating breath, and also moving with attention and whatever movement you would like to do. So why is this all important? Why is it so important that we focus on this mental resilience? Because I don't know about you, but when I speak to people, I hear a lot of workplace challenges that we have to deal with nowadays. And some of them are real and they are true. But there are so many of these workplace challenges that are actually taking place in the mind. It's a lot of thoughts about what colleagues may think, what your manager may say. It's thoughts about yourself. You can't do it. You have too much work to do. So a lot of these challenges are just taking place in your mind and they're not even real yet. There might even be problems that will take place in the future. So you can actually respond to these thoughts. And in the end also, you can respond to the actual challenges that are taking place through this mental resilience, through the growth mindset. So I thought of a real life example, and I think many of you can relate to this one, which is high workload and being just too busy at work. I know so many professionals, that's basically what they have to deal with. And it sounds easy, right? Because if there's a high workload and you're too busy, you just say, sorry, I can't take up any more work. But then the reality in their mind is, but I can't say no to extra work. There's no one else to do it. Or if I say no to extra work, maybe they think I'm not capable of my job. Well, whatever thought comes with it, why you believe that you can't say no to extra work. So your reality is there's too much work, I can't say no, and you have that repeated thought day in, day out, and nothing is going to change. So what can we do? Well, there's a few tips that I would like to share with you. And the first one, I think, is really a very useful and also important one, challenging your thought. And again, it all starts with being aware that you have that thought. So challenge your thought. Is it 100% true? I can't say no to extra work. How do you know? What happens if you will say no to your work? Has there maybe been a time last year or maybe even earlier that you had said no to work? Would you expect your colleagues to always say yes, no matter what? So you can already feel, well, no, not always yes. Sometimes you just have to say no, right? So you can already see some spaces coming in that thought. And what's the worst that could happen if you would say no? And would you give the same advice to the colleagues in the same situation? So the reality check of that thought, question them. You can already have different perspectives, and you can then explore these different perspectives. And maybe even some solutions come up. But again, this reality check is not about finding a solution immediately. It's about creating space in your mind. The second one is shifting the perspective. So reframing the thought, and we already saw that in the other slides. So if I say I can't say no, but you can maybe say, what if I can't say no because I'm not capable at work? Or they may think that I am not competent. What if saying no actually shows that you are very professional, that you are able to set boundaries? Or what if you say no to new work, then therefore you can actually finish the project that you were working on with a much better quality? So you can already see that you're shifting the perspective. So if saying no, you're afraid of saying no because you might not be seen as professional, maybe actually you are way more professional by saying no. So again, shifting the perspective. So shifting perspectives opens up new possibilities. And you're not focusing on the limitations, but you're focusing on the possibilities. Then once there is a little bit more space and you've explored these new perspectives, you can take action from a place of clarity. So rather than like, oh my gosh, I'm just so busy and I can't say no, you're having all that stress and then maybe you're snappy to your colleagues and you're not in a good place. You take action from a place of clarity. You take action from a state of calm. What would you do if you can't say no? Maybe you can say no, maybe you can set a small boundary. Can I maybe check that if I say no, what will happen? You can start exploring these new perspectives in a calm way and see what will happen. So even small steps and small changes in thinking can already help you in reducing, for instance, that negative thought or reducing the stress that you are experiencing. And you can then break the cycle. Last but not least, very important, I would say, is don't think for someone else. I think that when I talk to people about the stress that they are experiencing, it usually is about my colleagues, I have to do everything by myself. And my colleagues cannot do it. My manager will think of me X, Y, and Z. So it's a lot of what other people may think or believe. And how do you know it's true? Right? Because again, it's just a thought that you are having and you didn't even check if it's true. So what is very useful is speaking up. What is bothering you? Maybe you can express, I find it very difficult to say no. However, and you can say what's bothering you. Maybe you can ask help. How can I say no so that it's also resonating with who I am as a person? And also sharing your new perspectives, like I have to say no now, so I can finish this project first, and after that, I will take this up, or help me prioritize. Yeah, so you would probably find out that if you're speaking up and sharing what's going on in your mind, that a lot of people will actually understand your dilemmas, and they will be very understanding, because you will be understanding if they would say the same to you. So and I use the abbreviation NATO, not assuming thoughts for others. So maybe it's time for to hear a little bit about the unhelpful thoughts that you are having that increases your stress or any workplace challenge. What are unhelpful thoughts? And maybe you already know, like, oh yeah, that's that thought that I have day in, day out. Or maybe you need to think a little bit about it. But what is really not helping for you? And I'll have to put on my glasses so I can read in the chat. And let's see what comes out there. Let's see. Can I go a little bit down? There's some typing there. Meanwhile, I see some great tips about breath regulation. Really wonderful to see. Yeah. Disappointment from others if I don't do it on their timeline. I'm about to be fired. That goes too fast. I need to handle all at the same time. I'm too slow at getting tasks done. Being just an intern. What's that? People won't find. Whatever we do, I know we end up in a disaster. I can't do it. Am I capable? I am too slow. I have to act like a role model. I like that one. It just caught my eye. Let's use this one just as an example, because with this, there is a worksheet as well, so that you can actually go through these 4 tips that I just shared. So all of you that wrote down these unhelpful thoughts can actually use that worksheet. And we'll explain later where you can find it. But I have to act like a role model. So challenge your thought, and I will go through it maybe a bit quicker, but if you do it yourself, you can take some more time. Is it 100% true that you have to act like a role model? What is that assumption, that thought based upon? And what does it even mean, a role model? And can a role model also make mistakes, for instance? Would that maybe make you, thinking about shifting the perspective, maybe that will make you even more human as a role model that can also make mistakes, for instance. Take action from a place of clarity. So if I have to act like a role model, what does this definition of a role model looks like? And if it puts a lot of pressure on you, the thought of having to act like a role model, maybe that is something that you can then share. You can share with your team or with your manager or whoever you think wants you to act like a role model. And again, don't think for someone else. And maybe this thought alone, I have to act like a role model, is maybe already thinking for someone else. Check and verify if it's really true that you have to act like a role model. And again, shifting that perspective, what does a role model even look like? Can a role model make mistakes? Yeah, this is just a little bit of an example how you can use these tips. And the most important thing is that you create a little bit of space around that thought that is not helping you, and to look for different perspectives and possibilities. So some do's and don'ts. Well, some do's, and I think the most important one here is reflecting on your thoughts. Awareness, right? Awareness is key. It's the first step to change. If you are not even aware of what you're thinking, then how can you change it? And becoming more aware is for instance, becoming more mindful, or maybe writing your thoughts down. Like, hey, what is it actually that I'm thinking? What is it that I think others will think of me? Also embracing challenges. There are learning opportunities. And yes, maybe that is a little bit difficult if you are a perfectionist, but even there are learning opportunities. And explore what will happen if you maybe make mistakes. Maybe not so much will happen. Practice stress-reducing techniques, whatever is stress-reducing for you. I already saw some nice tips about breathing exercises, but it could be yoga, it could be running, cooking, dancing, anything that you like that reduces the stress. Ideally throughout the day, so why not grab all your colleagues and go for a little dance? I don't know, but also definitely towards the end of the day, let go of the stress and be kind to yourself. You are kind to others, probably more kind than you are to yourself. So becoming more aware of that as well. Self-compassion builds resilience. Hey, you know what? I am doing a great job and I'm doing all the best that I can. What we want to avoid is that you are suppressing emotions. It's not about being happy 24/7. It's acknowledging that you are frustrated. It's acknowledging that you are angry or that you are sad or too much stress. Acknowledge it and do not suppress it. And the moment that you acknowledge, you can actually make a change. It's also not about staying in that fixed mindset. Even listening to this webinar, maybe you think like, yeah, but I'm not able to do this, or no, I can't change, or why should I? That's keeping you where you are at. So it limits your growth. So avoid discomfort. We all know that growth lies outside of the comfort zone. So I encourage you to go and look for new ways, even the smallest steps. And that's also the last one. Don't expect instant results. Resilience takes time and practice. Small steps. And again, sometimes maybe you will fall back, and that's okay, because you're training your mental resilience and you're able to deal with that in a better way. And last but not least, I find it very important also to mention that mental resilience is not about fake positivity. You know, sometimes I see that as well around me. Like, yeah, I really feel stressed, but hey, you know what? Okay, and you put on your shoulders. No, it's about acknowledging that you are stressed and then exploring what is it that you need. It's about becoming aware of your thoughts. Challenging these negative thoughts, we saw that is very important as well. And it's also finding that balance between pushing through and your well-being. It's great if you are determined and that you want to show, but I can do this. But do not go over your own limitations and over your own borders, right? Respect also your own well-being. You choose what you focus your attention on. and you are adapting the challenges with the growth mindset. And growth mindset may take time, but you all have this growth mindset. It's just about becoming aware of it, of your thoughts. And I want to finalize this webinar with, I believe, a beautiful quote that kind of summarizes it all. So between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is a power to choose our response, right? Something happens at work or something happens maybe at home. And the moment you go immediately into your response, you're not in control. But if you are able to create more space between what is happening and how you choose to respond, that's where your growth and your freedom is. So you're not like controlled by all your thoughts, feelings, and behavior, but you can choose and you can decide how you want to tackle certain challenges and how you want to deal with, for instance, work stress. So with that, I think the webinar has come to an end. I also have a slide here with some recommended books, but I'm sure, and maybe you have good books for yourself as well. Maybe you want to share that as with the others. And I think there is a Q&A, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much, Sandy. I think it was a super interesting masterclass. Feel free also to keep sending your questions, but we will start with the Q&A right away. So just to dive into it, we have a question from Simone. I think this is also something that you touched upon at the end. Her question is, how can you make sure that training growth mindset does not turn into toxic positivity?
Exactly. So training a growth mindset is what I already mentioned, is not about ignoring emotions, right? Training growth mindset is knowing that you are capable of dealing with these emotions that may not always be nice emotions. Acknowledging, becoming aware, like I feel sad, I feel angry, and then respond, what do you need to do to deal with that anger? That's, I think, way more healthy than suppressing it. And if you know that you can deal with, for instance, anger, or if you can deal with stress, that will tell your brain, hey, I'm feeling this, but I can actually cope with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So not ignoring,
No.
but the other way around.
And what do you need to handle that emotion? Yeah.
Yeah, and being very self-conscious also in that sense.
Yeah.
Nice. Another question from Vim. And the question is, if you have a growth mindset, how can you encourage others who do not think in a similar way?
I like that one, because what we sometimes tend to do is like you're a positive person and you were speaking to the other person. Oh no, it's not too big and you don't need to stress, it will all work out. Whereas the other person looks at you like, yeah, right, I don't believe a word of what you're saying. So you could go into conversation like, okay, but what's really bothering you? And what's the worst maybe that could happen? Or what do you need right now to maybe take a next step, right? So it's about inviting the others and making the other aware of what is actually bothering them, creating that space for the other. I think that's where you can support the other in their growth mindset, in the training.
Yeah, interesting. So making them aware, and I like the question that you also mentioned, what is the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
I think that's always a very useful question to challenge such a thought.
Yeah, and what do you need? What do you need right now? If you see that somebody's really stressed or sad or really emotional, you know, the worst that you could say, but don't worry, everything will work out. Yeah, right. But now I'm feeling like this. Okay, but what do you need right now? If in your emotions, maybe the person needs to go for a walk or a hug or anything. But that's, I think, first important. And then afterwards you can see, okay, how can you maybe prevent that, or what is your next step? So small steps in that matter.
Yeah, sounds good. Then another question from Iqbal. The question is, how can we help anxious, stressful thoughts to calm down? And he mentions, my anxiety comes in situations that I can no longer change the outcome. But thoughts continue, causing physical reactions as well. And I tell myself I can't do anything about it anymore. And do mindful exercises. And it goes away then for 5 minutes. So it helps short term, but it also comes back.
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, very nice to see that you are so aware of it. And it can indeed be a bit of a challenging, frustrating process as well. but it does take practice. That I have to say as well, and look also for different types of techniques. And so he's saying that he does already some mindful practice. Maybe it needs to be a bit more a different type of mindful practices. And what I also understood a little bit, can you signal it even earlier, right? Before you are already in that state of anxiousness, because then maybe the 5 minutes alone is not enough. So that's something that I would maybe give as a tip. Really try to see, okay, what are situations where I know these might lead into anxious feelings, and can you then maybe prevent it even a little bit more? Or what can I do to regulate my stress before I move into that specific situation that leads to all that anxiety? That's a little bit what I would say. And small things as breathing, maybe music, nature. And sometimes if it's really a lot on your plate, sometimes it's good to maybe seek some professional help, maybe have a coach to really to talk about what's going on in your mind. Sometimes we all need it once in a while.
Yeah, and I guess it can also help to learn more about yourself.
Exactly.
And be very conscious about how you react to certain situations. What are the first signals that you can already maybe take action on? Yeah, another question. So Alizera asks, what language or self-talk supports a growth mindset?
What language or self-talk? Well, I would say, what is it that you're already proud of? I don't know if that's, so that's the language that you would use. So, okay, this is what I'm good at. Or this is what I, for instance, hear, becoming more aware of compliments maybe that people give you, which we kind of forget immediately. So you write down these things that you're good at, that you feel you are in control of, you know that people like you for it. That can already help you, can help. Like I said, people usually around you talk more kindly about you than you talk about yourself. So I would focus also on that, writing it down and speaking it out, maybe in front of the mirror in the morning. And sometimes you have to keep practicing it to actually start believing it. So again, not really going into the fake positivity, but here, if there's proof that people like you for who you are, or that you have done some great results in terms of projects or work, acknowledge them and use these as example and speak these out loud. That's what I would suggest.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think something that I also practiced in the past that I heard that worked very well is being grateful.
Yeah.
So just in the morning, writing down 3 things that you're grateful for, and those can be super small.
Exactly.
Maybe that the sun is shining, for example, or have a nice breakfast.
Yeah.
And for me, at least, that's helped super well.
Yeah, I agree. That's also a great tip. Nice. Writing, journaling, gratitude. Yeah.
And so Natalie Rose asks how to continue your own growth mindset or positivity if you are surrounded by negative people.
Wow, yeah, that can sometimes be indeed very challenging. I don't know, I would probably also say speaking out what it is that you need. I don't know what kind of surrounding it is, but yeah, first of all, I would definitely express what it is that you need, and like, I feel this isn't that, or you're pulling me down, this is not what I need. If it's really an environment, a team that you're at, and it's like, this is not my people. I mean, at a certain moment, maybe you also have to realize I'm not happy here, and maybe move on. So it depends a little bit on how bad it is, right? I've heard people as well that say like, it's just not my crowd, it's not my tribe. I'm going somewhere else where I'm more happy. But speaking out, share it. How does it make you feel that you have all these negative thoughts around you, and then see what's maybe bothering them.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to also keep it from your own experience, what you are feeling, what you are thinking and dealing with.
Exactly.
And then you also can't hurt anyone else if you keep it to yourself.
Exactly, yeah. And maybe the others are not even aware of it, or maybe they don't even see it as that negative. It could also be that you perceive it as negative and the others think, oh, no, it's not negative, it's just, I don't know, right? So maybe they're not even aware of that.
Indeed. Yeah, and then a question from Katja. She's asking, what is the key in dealing with uncertainty?
What is the key in dealing with uncertainty? That's a good question. It depends also a little bit, of course, on the task that needs to be done. It's looking for also, first of all, acknowledging that there is uncertainty. And uncertainty also, keeps you sharp. It makes you sure that you maybe want to learn something, that you want to train something, right? So it also is a good thing. But if it's really like paralyzing you, like, no, I can't do this, right? Then you are going to check these thoughts. Is it really true? Is there maybe proof that makes you, or maybe situations that make you a little bit more certain? Maybe friends or family that say to you, oh, you can do this, or remember once you did that project and you rocked it. So looking also for positive proof. So that's what my advice would be: acknowledging, because that's also something that helps you, and looking for proof, and the thoughts underneath that uncertainty.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful. Thanks. And then a question from Johannes. I'm exhausted at work. From work, I do tend to get in a cycle of procrastination because I'm angry of the situation and myself at work. Then this is a downward spiral because I feel guilty because the work isn't done. I feel it's very hard to, and I find it very hard to get out of this cycle.
Yeah. Well, again, also great that he is already aware of, this is how I'm feeling and I'm not happy and this is not the place where I want to be at. Sometimes it's also, again, sharing with others, like, I don't see a way out. This is what's happening. Because there is this circle, right? This circle that we want to break. So I'm not happy, you're feeling bad about yourself, you reinforce your thoughts, and this is how it goes down and down and down. So what you can maybe do is look for some, like what you mentioned as well, is there something that went well today? Is there something that I actually did finish today? And if you really find it like everything is like horrible, there's nothing good out of today, and you keep having that every day, then I think you need to start sharing that. Because you don't want to end up in this place where you don't see any way out, of course. So making it known to whether it's your colleagues or maybe, again, somebody who can listen to what's going on in your life. So expressing it and asking help. I think that is very important.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, people often feel like they're alone in situation.
Exactly.
Where sharing indeed can help very well. So I think that's a good point. We have time for one last question from John. And the question is, how do you recognize and balance being optimistic and positive and being overconfident and unrealistic?
Wow, that's a difficult one. I think you can only, realize that you were overly confident if you said, yes, I'm going to do that. And in the end you say like, okay, maybe, I wasn't quite capable enough of doing so. And then if you have that growth mindset, like, but hey, at least I've learned and this is how far I've come, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I'm not sure about the reason for that question. Again, overly optimistic or overly positive, if it's really pushing yourself over your own borders, right? We talked about that well-being. Then I think you have to be a little bit more careful that you are really staying true to who you are and that you're not going over the borders that you said, like, hey, exceeding your own limitations, that you may even harm yourself in either a physical or maybe mental way.
Yeah, so really keeping an eye at your well-being.
Exactly,
and all the challenges that you're going to face and maybe being very ambitious also. I think that's a good note to end. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise and also for this nice conversation.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Also, thank you at home for tuning in. We have the next masterclass planned. That one will be about neurodiversity. So if you're interested, also feel free to already subscribe. And you can find the handout in the app tab below. So you can also work on all the tips that you gathered yourself with the worksheet of Sandy. So yeah, with that said, I wish you a lovely afternoon. Thank you very much.